First thing you're going to do, pull your seat up, run your seatbelt through the steering wheel, buckle it in, because there's a clock spring inside the steering wheel, and if this wheel's a turn too quickly, it could break it. Your cruise control and your horns, nothing would work. So do that first. We're going to remove our nut off our pitman arm. I think the factory one is a 33 millimeter. Mine is 1 3/4 for my aftermarket one. All right, using your 21 millimeter, going to take the nut off for your drag link that goes to your pitman arm. Use a pitman arm puller to separate the drag link in from a pitman arm. Take this right here off, and what we'll do is we'll just lower it down. Take a paint marker, make a mark on your gearbox and on your pitman arm. That way you'll remember which way this pitman arm goes back on. There's only 4 ways a pitman arm will go on. I will show you them key ways later. Hook your pitman arm puller up and pull your pitman arm off. Be prepared to use a long breaker bar, or maybe even a short breaker bar with a long pipe over it to have enough leverage to get your pitman arm off. We're going to start out by unhooking the hose that goes from the power steering pump to the gearbox cooler. Slide the clamp back and remove the hose to drain the fluid. After it drains, you can hook it back up. Alright, we're going to slide our hose clamp on the passenger side line and get it up out of our way. Remove your hose to drain the fluid and leave it disconnected. Alright, we're going to remove our steering wheel shaft. That is a 10 millimeter. And you're going to take your pry bar, you're going to wedge it right in right there and just pry that right there out. Now this steering wheel shaft actually collapses, just in case you get to an accident. It'll go up in towards the firewall of the truck. Just push it right there up out of the way, just like that. All right, the line closest to the steering wheel shaft will be a 20 millimeter. And the one up front that's coming from the power steering pump, coming down, it will be an 18 millimeter. I took both hands to break this right here loose. So that's why I had to move the camera and stuff out of the way. So be prepared for that. I'm thinking I can get this with my fingers. This thing will be fun to put back in. All right, got 3 bolts here on the side of the frame that holds your steering gearbox on. There's 1, 2, and then 3. These are 18 millimeter. Now, when you get ready to pull the top one out, you need to be hanging on to your steering gearbox, and it is definitely heavy, so be careful and don't smack your face. Couple things to note. We got our steering gearbox on the bench vise. Remember the yellow mark or the little paint mark I put on? Well, it matches up my pitman arm, so I remember now my pitman arm went this direction. So I got the U-box sitting here. I know the Pitman arm goes this way, so I made me a little yellow paint mark right here. That way when I'm upside down underneath the truck, I don't get confused on how it goes in. Number 2, these bolts right here on this side. Got 3 of them. They come with your gearbox. You put these in your core when you send it back. They want them back. And then you got 2 big fittings right here that did not come on your old one. These right here convert this box over to our fitting here for the Dodges, cause Dodge and Ford's shell is the same. So that tells me this housing right here came off a Ford at one point, then they rebuilt it for a Dodge. So don't go taking these fittings right here out, leave them in there if you drive a Dodge, because that's what them fittings are in there for. So you just take these right here out and pull this plug. That's all you got to do for that. As far as the O-rings that come with the kit, you got 2 big ones and a small one. For the Dodge guys, just eliminate that small one and use the 2 big ones right here. The small one is for Fords and Chevys and stuff, so you don't need that. Throw it in your toolbox, use it for something maybe. All right, I think, oh yeah, forgot. I told you earlier, this pitman arm will only go on 4 ways, and the reason why is because you got a groove right here, which is way bigger than the rest of them. And then you got another one here, another one here, and one on the back side, or keyways, whatever you want to call them. You notice the pitman arm same way. There's a big keyway, big one, and a big one. So it's really hard to get this confused unless you put it on sideways, or if you put it on backwards, which people has done that before, didn't end up having to take it back off. So that's why our paint marks match. And last but not least, before I throw this in, when you get this, they've already got it clocked for your steering wheel to be straight. So if you start out with your steering wheel straight, you ain't got to worry about clocking this and lining it up or nothing. Golly, this sucker's heavy. Okay. All right. All right, now I forgot to mention, you need to keep track of where your bolts go. Put them back in the exact same spot, because if you look here, these are different. I know it's pointy one here. Once it's got the point on the end, it's going to go up front right here on the bottom. This one right here is going to go on the bottom back side. Just keep track of them. Get this in here started. And get this last one here started. All right, the bolts for your steering gearbox that mounts to your frame, it's going to be 145 foot-pounds. All right, we're going to change our O-ring out. Peel this in here off. Put a little power steering fluid on it so it don't go in dry. Make sure it's on there. All right, now the line that's in the truck that you didn't take completely out, go put the O-ring on that one. We're gonna hook our power steering lines back up, pull the red tab out, get it out the way. Be patient on getting these lines started because they can cross thread easily. So just watch what you're doing and make sure that it spins freely as you're putting them back in. If it starts out hard to spin, then you know you're cross threading them. Unscrew it, start all over, realign your hose. Just give her a good tightening. Slide our hose back up in here. Get it started. All right, tighten both lines up to the point you're unable to wiggle them inside the gearbox. Hook your line back up to your gearbox cooler. Put your hose clamp back on. All right, next we'll put our steering wheel shaft back on. Just takes a little wiggling and finesse to get it. Now, push it down. Put you some blue thread locker on your bolt. Run it in. Now, if you can't get your bolt to start, that means you got the shaft pushed too far against the steering gearbox. So just pull out on a little bit, but so the bolt can go right there in that groove. We're going to torque this to 36 foot-pounds. We're going to put our pitman arm back on, lining our mark up. So got the yellow mark here, so we know it goes like this. Stick it on there. Put our nut on. All right, I'm going to tighten the nut down to 185 foot-pounds. Next, we're going to drop our drag link down in our pitman arm. Get your nut started, torque it to 40 foot-pounds, an additional 90 degrees. We're going to fill it up. I'm using ATF +4 because that's what my truck calls for. Check your manual, see what your truck calls for. Going to fill it up to the max level. Now, if you take a flashlight, get one that'll sit right dead on top of it. All right, you see I got a flashlight right there. It's sitting on top of the reservoir. If you do that, you can see down in there exactly where your level is. So we're still below the minimum. So I'm going to add some more. All right, next, undo your seat belt, get off your steering wheel, and we're going to rotate the steering wheel 15, 20 times, and then we'll check the fluid and see how much it dropped. All right, to make sure they clocked our steering gearbox before they send it out, we're going to count the turns in both directions. All right, we're going to start with one turn. And that's about 2/3 of a turn. Go back to center. It's one turn to the left. And about 2/3. Just keep doing this from lock to lock about 20, 30 times to bleed all the air out of the system. All right, next, you're gonna come out here, see how much the fluid dropped, fill your reservoir up. All right, you got 3 options here. One, you can get a friend to start the truck and you stand here with your ATF4, power steering fluid, whatever it is you got, and keep that reservoir topped off. Or 2, if you like me, you can use a remote start, which is what I'm gonna do with this vehicle, And I'm gonna keep that reservoir topped off after the truck starts, because the power steering pump's gonna suck fluid down just as soon as you crank it. Now, if you don't have a remote start, like I do on my other vehicles, you can do this. Crank your truck. I've done it in the past, but you crank your truck, let it run 5 or 6 seconds, cut it off, come out here, add fluid as needed. And I'll do that a couple times, crank, cut it off, add fluid until it stops sucking it down. After that, with the truck idling, you're going to want to rotate your steering wheel 20 or 30 times like you did with the truck off. But this time you do not go lock to lock, because if you go lock to lock, you can damage something if you don't have all the air out of the system yet. So in my case, when we were rotating the steering wheel, or turning the steering wheel from right to left, from center, it was 1 full turn and 2/3 of a turn. And then when we rotated it back left, it was 1 full turn plus 2/3 of a turn. So with the truck idling, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go 1 full turn and a half. So be a turn and a half to the right, back to center, turn and a half to left, do that 20, 30 times to finish bleeding air out of the system. All right, after you've let the truck run and you rotated your wheel just shy of lock to lock, about 15, 20 times, top off your reservoir. Make sure there's no air bubbles in it. If you see air bubbles in it, it means you still got air in the system. I would keep doing it. I normally do it until there's no air bubbles. And what I mean by air bubbles, I mean when I look down inside the reservoir, through the top here, I look down inside the reservoir and I see no bubbles, then that's usually a pretty good indication you have no air in the system. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the Synergy tie rod and drag link install, which I already have here. I'm going to start on that tomorrow.